Hey, it's Matt Pinfield. It's KLOS New and Approved. And my guest is an artist that you've heard on our New and Approved Countdown. From Seattle, Washington, it's Ayron Jones. Ayron, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt, how you doing, man? It's good to see you.
I'm doing well. I've seen some of the things that you've done, with streaming in the periods of, like during this pandemic. One of the ones you did was a really cool version. You did a cover of Black Hole Sun by Soundgarden and Chris Cornell with my friend Lizzie Hale on that Raise Your Horns podcast, which was really great. Because I was doing mine right after her, so we were like basically in the same stream. So I got to see you do that song, which was really cool, So I want to talk to you. Ayron, tell me a bit about you as a child, because it's a pretty incredible story. I mean, you were abandoned when you were 4 years old. And I mean, that's an incredibly young age to have to go through that kind of hardship. Can you talk to me about that and how you found music and how you found the guitar and how music was the thing that saved you?
Well, oftentimes it's said that music finds you, so I think I'm going to go ahead and have to go with that age-old, belief that music found me, man. As a kid, I definitely had identity issues with my parents not being around. My aunt did the best she could to help fill that void. But, I think my journey into figuring out who I was and what I was going to be about kind of started from that point forward. But music was always with me, man. It was always by my side. I know stories of when I was a little kid, and I used to dance to all the Motown and to James Brown and to all these really prominent soul artists. And when I turned 13, I picked up guitar, and that became my outlet. And that led to where we are today.
Well, it's amazing. Now, you were also involved with the Hendricks family for a while as well, right?
Yeah,
I
was.
Because I know that Jimi is a big influence on you, and you being from the same area, it's just it's an incredible lineage that I think is really cool.
Yeah. So I got involved with the Hendricks family early on in my career. The way that happened was I used to play. So in my career, I came up playing the clubs and the bars and doing these 3-hour gigs at little spots I could find. And I came across a guy named Troy Wright. And Troy Wright was Jimi Hendrix's ex-husband. And through that, I got associated with the Hendricks family. I got really close with Austin Hendricks, who's Jani's son. And I got close with their family. And that kind of started this really great musical journey. Austin hooked me up with a gig open for Janelle Monáe back in 2011 and 2010. And we just kind of had a close friendship since then. And I mean, they really are like an extended family to me. So I'm really close to the Hendrixes, and they're really great people, and they've really, put their best foot forward to help me become who I am today.
I think that's great. And I know Jimmy's a big influence on you. So besides Jimi Hendrix, let's talk about people like Tom Morello, because I can hear that influence as well. Who are some of your favorite guitarists? Tom is definitely one, right?
Tom is definitely up there as an innovator. I tend to be more attracted to the old school guitar players who kind of set the road for all the new sounds we hear today. Definitely Jimi Hendrix. You can't rule out Stevie Ray Vaughan. You can't rule out B.B. King. All the blues cats that laid down the path before us. But also, I've been a huge fan of Steve Vai. I've been a huge fan of Yngwie. I've been, the list goes on and on and on. Of course, I mean, you can't forget Eddie Van Halen. Obviously, man. Like, rest in peace, Eddie. But there's a myriad of different guitar players that I really have been inspired by, and I try to put that in my music the best I can. It would take me away, definitely. Rage Against the Machine is a huge influence on me. Really great band, and one of my favorite albums. I just got asked that question is Evil Empire. So I try to take those sounds and apply them to my music, and that was really kind of like the outline for this record, was taking that Seattle sound. Was taking my influences from Rage Against the Machine and definitely some of my blues and soul influences and putting them all together in a record.
Let's talk about the fact that you've done some great opening gigs, too. I know Guns N' Roses have taken you out. Tell me about those experiences. And I know Duff is a native of Seattle and there. How did that all come about? How did that transpire?
Well, it came to me. I was working with who was that? Barrett Martin. So Barrett Martin worked on my second record, drummer from Screaming Trees and Mad Season. And, he worked with me on my second record, or independent record. And through that, I got the opportunity to work on some projects with Duff and Mike McCready. And in 2017, once I signed with my management company, the first thing I did was jump on stage with Duff and open for them at the Gorge. But my indie career was also very great. As an indie artist, I got the opportunity to open up for some of rock and roll's, greatest artists, B.B. King, Jeff McKagan, and obviously Guns N' Roses. I got to work with Los Lonely Boys. I got to work with Living Color. So for the first 10 years of my career, I really, put my best foot forward and got an opportunity to work with some of the greatest. And that's kind of what set the precedent for today.
That's great. You just mentioned a lot of those guys you mentioned. I'm friends with, like Barrett Martin. He and I used to hang out all the time back in the 90s, you know what I mean? And, of course, Mike and Duff. I just love that they've really rallied around you and been a champion of your music, which is very cool. You're very proud of that area you're from, too, right? I mean, Seattle has such a rich history of great music. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'm in love with Seattle, man. I always have been. I'm what you call a good old American boy, man. Growing up, I was really taught to have pride in my country and have pride in where I come from, and Seattle's a part of that story for sure. Being born and raised in the area I grew up in, which is a very cultured area. I grew up in the Central District, which would be considered the inner city, but I always saw this beautiful potential for art and culture to come out of the city, and which it has. And ultimately, I wanted to make a name for myself and bring the city with always, man. So I just have a love. I have a love for the people here, and for the rest of my life, I'm going to make sure that everyone knows where I came from and how amazing the place this is.
Talk to me about, I just think it's great. The fact that you played with B.B. King, who's such an incredible legend of blues. Is there any special moment that you can talk about? What was it like when you actually got to have a great conversation with B.B. King? Was there any kind of advice that he gave you as a guitarist who's been there for so long and been such an influence? What was that conversation like?
I can't say that there was any advice necessarily, but it was, I remember the moment and thinking to myself, like, I couldn't believe it was happening. First of all, you grew up and you listen, back in the day, you couldn't just go on YouTube and figure out how to play, whatever song was out there. You got all these tutorials of different people doing that. So you had to listen to these records. Here I am listening to B.B. King over and over and over again, trying to figure out how to play these different songs and picking up on his styles and stuff. And, you know the legacy of B.B., the legacy of what he's done in the past. And all of a sudden, here I am on stage with the man. And mind you, it was a bittersweet experience because shortly after that show, he passed away. And so he was at the end of his rope, but just to be able to have a conversation with him and to realize that, like, as an independent artist, I found myself on a stage with B.B. King. I mean, it was a moment I'll never forget. And for the rest of my life, I'll carry that with me.
I think that's great, I mean, obviously, Jimmy is such an influence, but you mentioned Stevie Ray Vaughan as well, who was really incredible. I'm sure he's a guy that, we all wish he had lived a lot longer, so you would have gotten the opportunity to meet him and actually play with him. Talk to me about the guys that are in your band right now. Who's been performing with you?
Sure. I've changed bands over the last, 5 to 6 or 7 years here, and it has been a multitude of different players, but the main ones right now, Bob Lovelace and Hassan Karimi have been with me for a long time now, so they've been playing with me for a while. I've also played with a cat named Kai Vanderpit and another bass player named DeAndre Enrico, and they were part of my original band, Ayron Jones and the Way, back in 2011 and 2010. And then it switched up in 2015, and now I'm signed as a solo artist, so I'm actually working with a different myriad of different drummers for this record. But yeah, those are the guys I've been working with. And whenever I write music, I always write these parts out, and I leave it up to the musicians to interpret those parts, in their own way. I don't try to force them into being what I want them to be. It's more saying, hey, this is what the song is supposed to sound like, and you add your own flavor and flair to it, So, but having worked with Bob and Hassan these last few years has been amazing. I mean, those cats have helped carry me to great heights.
That's fantastic. I know that Barrett had played drums early on with you, but that's cool that you're playing with a bunch of different people now. Talk to me about the song "Take Me Away." Give me the full story about the song.
Yeah, "Take Me Away" was written right after I just coming off of this. It was like my second indie tour, like an 8-week tour here in the Western United States, and what was on my mind was starting to tell a real life story as opposed to telling, I think for a long time I told stories about love and love loss and, all these things that have to do with almost like this blues natured sound, and I think Take Me Away was my first step into really being more open and vulnerable and real about where I was coming from. And so that was the inspiration to it. Take Me Away was really about trying to epitomize the story of Ayron Jones, you know, like what music really meant to me, and being the ability to triumph over these hardships. And, you know, that really was where it came from. And you know, so when I got with the label on my first single, I knew that had to be the first one. It had to be the first single because it was really about who I really was, and that was going to set the precedent moving forward. You know.
I think it's great because, you know, I know that you've said that, you know, things that happen to you when you're younger, some of those traumatic experiences and even abandonment, things like that, don't have to define you. You know what I mean? Those are the things, you know, they help build your character, but you overcome those things. And you've done that in such an amazing way as a musician and as a singer and songwriter. So I think that's great. Mercy's the new single. Such a great tune. Talk to me about this song.
Yeah, man, Mercy's great. I fell in love with this song after we had written it. So this song got written back in about, I want to say around the fall of last year or in the summer. And I got in a room with Marty Fredrickson and Scott Stevens, and we started writing on this tune, and all this stuff just started flowing out. I mean, it was almost like all this pent up anxiety from the whole 2020, you know, into 19. And what the song was really about was American perseverance at heart. And traveling through these hardships and the things that we've been through as a country with the social unrest and with the many lives lost to COVID. I'm sitting here on the West Coast before I go for the songwriting trip, and we're literally blanketed in a toxic cloud of smoke from the forest fires that were taking over the whole West Coast. We couldn't go outside even, you know. So in that moment, like, I really found myself trying to find a way to express that in a way that could really everyone could relate to, but also wouldn't cause a dividing line between people, because there's enough that divides us right now, and that's not something that I wanted to do. I mean, I definitely have my own story as a Black American, have my own feelings as a Black American, but I also have feelings as just an American citizen, and I thought it was really important for us to have a song that really we could all look at and say that that's right, you know, and we've gone through that, we're going through that, and we're persevering through that. So that's how Mercy came to be.
That's a great song. It really is. I love that message, you know, because now it's a time for people to unite. That's what it's really all about, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's great. So what are your plans? The album will be out sometime soon, right? I mean, is the album completely done at this point?
Yeah, it's done. It's done, yep.
And do you have a release date for it?
We don't have a release date yet, but we do plan to release it this summer. So we're kind of locking down exactly what date that's going to be. But yeah, this summer we're looking forward to having this out.
Which is great. You know, I've been talking to a lot of my friends that are artists, and I think a lot of them have been waiting just because of the inability to tour right now, and just putting out singles in the meantime before they drop their full releases. And was that one of the considerations as well?
Yeah, well, I believe so too. Yeah, we definitely wanted to wait because the inability to tour right now definitely was something that we thought about in terms of the release. But yeah, I also just think it's just going to be a good time, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a really good time. I think as things start to open up, even regardless of being able to tour, I think that we're going to start to see things be on the up and up, and it's going to be a good time to release a record that'll mean something to people, you know?
And it'll be great. Won't it be amazing, that feeling when you first go back on stage again in front of an audience and play?
I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous. Being so out of practice right now, I was thinking about this yesterday. I was like, man, I'm like out of shape. I haven't been playing as much as I could be playing, you know. So I'm a little nervous, but like I think it's gonna take a couple weeks to get back in the groove, and yeah, I'm gonna be super excited once we can be able to, go back out and play in front of an audience.
I bet you'll kill it. First night out, you'll do it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I hope so.
It's so great to have you on the show, Ayron, and we are seriously supporting you, and we're big fans. So thanks for taking the time to hang out with me today on the show. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, brother.
It was great. Absolutely. Ayron Jones, great new single, Mercy, new album this summer. Thanks so much for watching us. It's KLOS New and Approved. You have a couple. Now I'll do the close. All right, that was a good one, right? Yep. Here we go. Thank you so much, Ayron. New album coming this summer from Ayron Jones, our guest. And, of course, the new single is Mercy, Take Me Away. It's been a big hit right here on KLOS. I'm Matt Pinfield. Thanks for watching us. This is New and Approved. I'll do another one, too, that's shorter, just so you have a couple choices. Is that cool? I like banging out at least 3, so you have them. It always is, right? Yep. Thanks so much, Ayron. Ayron Jones from Seattle, Washington, with a new album expected this summer. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Matt Pinfield, and this is KLOS New and Approved. That was probably the best, right? And the ending one, or who knows? Anyone you like? You think you have it though, right? Iguap's great, man. Of course, he's awesome.
All right, let's stop recording.
Yeah, so we have a couple different choices. Whichever one you guys like, you guys go with is great for me. You know? I'm going to get out of the way for a little bit while everybody gets things going and put back on my mask. Thanks, Steph. And thanks to everybody. Thanks to you guys, man. You guys are the best.
All right,
That was cool. Ayron was like thanking you guys, too. I like that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, so for our next segment, we're going to move your desk back a little bit.
Yeah,
Give Jasmine a little bit more room, and then we're going to...
Which would be so cool.
Yeah.
Because this way she gets to play.